Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news as we go 90% on Frankie de Jong, 90% clubs in the house. We'll explain why in a minute. But in relation to Timber, remember we spoke about this a little bit yesterday. Some breaking news this morning from Marcel van der Kraan, who is a Dutch journalist, effectively saying on Sky Sports News that the Timber deal is dead in the water because of Louis van Gaal. And actually, you know what? I might have to adjust my percentage on that from 80%. I'll have to have a think. Yeah, it's a shame on Timber. We'll talk about that. But to be fair, it does validate the information that we had 3 or 4 weeks ago that personal terms were done between Timber and Manchester United, and therefore being 80% certain of a deal was absolutely spot on. Unfortunately, something's happened that I don't think... I imagine Ten Hag's more pissed off than anybody else, to be fair. Also, Eriksen still features heavily in Manchester United's plans. And I also want to put something up on the screen which I think evidences the fact that we don't actually have a lot of money to spend. I know this Richard Arnold stuff from yesterday, which obviously we spoke about last night, came out, but he didn't commit to 200 million. He didn't commit to 100 million. And I think it's very obvious that we don't have a lot of money to spend, as much as we would like to spend. But hopefully I will be wrong on that. But I think this Frankie de Jong obsession sort of fits in with that. So, look, let's start off with Frankie de Jong. It says 90% on the thumbnail. De Jong deal this week on the description. Simon Stone has spoken about this morning. Simon Stone, obviously BBC journalist, very reliable, talking about continued talks with Manchester United and Barcelona. We've ridden the storm of last Thursday when Barcelona had this big financial input. They still want to sell Frankie de Jong. I said this last night. Some Barcelona fans are thinking that they're going to keep him. Barcelona have been pushing this for weeks and weeks. Frankie de Jong is aware of it. Manchester United want him. Erik ten Hag has identified Frankie de Jong as the biggest signing of his career, the biggest signing of his Manchester United career. He wants this player more than any other. That's why he's so focused on it. And the story is that you can expect some big developments around Frankie de Jong this next week for Manchester United. Remember this story about dividends coming out at the end of the week for the Glazers. They will not want silence around a dividend payment. They will not want to be hitting the 24th of June with no signings and then something else hitting the headlines about dividends. Expect something major this week. I don't think we'll see Frankie de Jong holding up the shirt next week, by the way. I don't think that will happen. He's currently in Las Vegas, but I think that will probably happen the first week of July when everybody's back training. The new kit comes out, but as we know, there's at least 3 stages to a transfer. There's terms agreed with the player, there's deal done with Barcelona, and then there's official announcement. I think we will get deal done with Barcelona in the next 7 days, and I think that's what Manchester United are working towards. Apparently Barcelona, by selling de Jong, it frees up financial restrictions on their wages, so I don't know how that works, but that's a big factor for them. And Manchester United and Barcelona aren't that far apart on fees. Add-ons are part of it. Manchester United want to pay around 60. Barcelona want around 70 million pounds. We're not talking in euros here because we are in England. And obviously there'll be add-ons on top of that. So yeah, look, I think, I mean, I can't give you a date. I can't give you a day. I would say by the end of next week, somewhat, maybe Thursday, Friday next week. But yeah, I think I thought something would have happened last week. I think it will definitely happen next week. And why are we moving up to 90%, Mark? I think with Frankie de Jong, they will buy players around him, says Gagan. Yeah, I would agree with that. And there was somebody else who said something. I can't find what it is. Thanks everyone who's getting involved in the chat. Yeah, so we've always been 75% on Frankie de Jong. That was what I was going to say. And I'm 90% now because I think you only move up when... and 90% is pretty much deal done, isn't it? It's not 100%, that's deal done. Let's make clarity on that. But I think I get it. I've done it before. I did it with Ten Hag. I won't believe it until it's official because I really wanted Ten Hag to be our manager and I really thought they'd go with Pochettino. I really understand that people will say not until he's holding up the shirt, Mark, it's not done, and I agree with that. But, also... we saw this with Pogba years ago. We've seen it with Bruno. We've seen it with other players. We've seen it with Sancho. You get stages of a transfer, don't you? And it's not speculative to say we're going to sign Frankie de Jong. If you'd said to me, are we going to sign Frankie de Jong in the middle of April, I would have said, what are you drinking? Absolutely no chance. And I think as of today, I'm 90% certain that we will sign him. From things that are being said, publicly. I mean, look, we had Man United put a brief out a week ago saying that we're negotiating for Frankie de Jong. You've got Richard Arnold yesterday talking to some United fans saying that we're in for de Jong. Now, look, where do I stand on that interview yesterday? I think Richard Arnold did himself a lot of favours, and fair play to the fans asking the question. I don't agree with the filming of it. I don't know what damage that's going to do in the future. Ultimately filming somebody without their permission, which is apparently what one of the lads said who was there, that they don't agree with it being filmed. It's not the best thing to do, in my opinion. I'm sure some people think it's brilliant. I don't think you should film people without their opinion and put it out without their permission and put it out publicly. It might do more harm than good. But the flip side of that is, as much as I don't agree with that, we verbally heard, we actually heard what Richard Arnold said. So, some people might say, well, yeah, bollocks, did he say that if they didn't have that evidence? So, it swings and roundabouts. The reality is I don't think Richard Arnold would be that bothered about it. It's just whether he'll speak publicly in the future to people and answer those sort of questions. But he did reference Frankie de Jong. We know we're in for Frankie de Jong. But we know Barcelona want to sell Frankie de Jong. And I think unless you had a Van Gaal moment, which we're going to talk about with Timber in a minute, unless you got some club that at the last minute swoops in for Frankie de Jong, then I don't see what stops this deal happening. Even the players' reluctance to come to the club doesn't seem to be stopping this deal from happening, as Barcelona push from one side and we pull from the other. So yeah, I'd be 90% on it. Some people are talking about the wages. Look, what I've heard about the wages is the wages will top 300 grand a week. Like it'll be close to 300 grand a week or beyond 300 grand a week. Some people think we're getting him for 250 grand a week. I don't think Frankie de Jong is going to come to Manchester United when he doesn't really want to come here and say, yes, pay me less than Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial. He will be recompensed for coming to this football club. And whether you agree with it or not, welcome to the Members Club, Ikena. Whether you agree with it or not, whether it bothers you or not, because it doesn't bother some people, he will be on over 300 grand a week at Manchester United, because we are getting a player to come to this club who doesn't want to come. So we're not going to get him on the cheap, as well as getting him not wanting to come. He's going to come for big money. Well, if that's the sort of thing that bothers you, you probably got a fair point. If it doesn't bother you, you're not going to really care. Hi Mark, who do you think our centre-backs options are if we don't get Timber, says Dazbo. Just about to talk about that, Daz. Louis van Gaal is being very petty, says McAlvis, but Man United reaping what they've sown. It's in reputational damage after a decade of mismanagement. I think that's a great point by McAlvis. Ronald, thank you for your super chat. And I think you're too optimistic, Mark. There's not enough time and not enough budget to do anything but paper over the cracks, says Tom. I'm not being optimistic, Tom. I'm really not. I'll come back to that in a minute, but I want to just get through the two big stories and then we'll go back to the budget, because I think you raise a good point about the budget. But on what McAlvis just said there, what he's basically saying is that the reason this Timber deal has fallen through is not because of Erik ten Hag, it's not because of the Manchester United fans, it's because of the last 9 years. And I think that more specifically, if the Van der Beek situation hadn't occurred, I think Timber would be a United player. So basically, Marcel van der Kraan, who's a Dutch journalist, has been on Sky Sports this morning, and he was asked the question, is it dead in the water with Timber to Manchester United? And he basically said, yeah, it's dead in the water. A few weeks ago, Timber's agents were in London discussing a deal. Now remember, if you go back through the United stand, I think it was tomorrow, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I did a video where I said terms agreed with Timber. Had that from two sides, Dutch side and close to the club. Terms agreed with the player. So that what Van der Kraan's saying there just verifies the information I knew was good anyway. That's why I was 80%. It was good information. As I said, I've never really had great information around de Jong, a little bit around Anthony, a little bit around Malacia. I mean, the Dutch ones have been quite good, but obviously de Jong isn't in the Netherlands. He's in Spain, isn't he? So we were very confident around Timber because he wanted to come to United. Wages were not a problem. Personal terms were not a problem. Erik ten Hag really wants him. So it was tick, 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 tick. And the only thing that was left, the only doubt really, I was 80% sure we were going to get him. The only 20% thing was the fee with Ajax, who didn't want to sell him. But Ajax will sell. They're not Dortmund. If a player says they want to go, Ajax are not the club that will say we're not going to sell you. So that's where we were before the international break. The international breaks happened, and as Marcel van der Kraan has said this morning on Sky, this deal is basically going to happen. Terms are agreed. They've been to London to speak to United. Then Louis van Gaal happens. And Louis van Gaal has made it clear to Timber he would not be in the Dutch team if he wasn't playing every week for Manchester United. Now, there's two things there. There's three things there. First of all, Van Gaal's name keeps coming up in relation to Manchester United. What do you think about Koulibaly, says Ryan? I doubt that would happen. Bayern paid 70 million for Mazraoui, Gravenberch and Mane. United are paying 85 million plus bonuses for De Jong. Thoughts, says Jack. And is De Jong just another big name who will, again, not match our expectations, says Danny? I think those conversations about De Jong need to happen when we've signed him. I certainly don't think we should just assume he's going to work. Paul Pogba probably came with a bigger reputation than De Jong and didn't work. So, you know, I would call any United fan a fool who thinks buying De Jong's going to solve our problems. We bought players before that are brilliant elsewhere and then just can't do it here. So but that's probably a conversation for when we have him. Bringing it back to Timber, there's three things to say. First of all, Van Gaal's got a massive problem with United. And probably justifiably so. He won the FA Cup and got sacked. If someone won the FA Cup now, they'd think about buying him a statue, you know, building him a statue, because we haven't won anything for 5 years. So Van Gaal's bitterness towards Manchester United, you can understand, and the people who sacked him are still at the club. So it's not like things have changed at United. Apparently, he told Ten Hag not to take the job, and Ten Hag decided to go with his own judgment. And here he is again, basically changing a player's mind. And he has changed somebody's mind. Now, the second point is, well, why is Timber having his mind changed? He's got to take a look at himself there, hasn't he? Why, you know, Ten Hag wants him. He'd agreed to come, and then he's had his mind changed. Does that show a little lack of maturity from Timber and a lack of confidence in his own ability? Because my feeling is, having watched United for the last year, this whole he'll be third choice to Maguire and Varane. Has anyone actually watched Maguire for the last year? Because I think Timber's a better player and he'd walk straight in the team. So, my argument, if I was Ten Hag, would be, but you'll be starting every week because that's the plan. And if you're not starting every week, you're not good enough to go for the World Cup anyway, are you? But my plan is to play you. Van Gaal, look, I don't massively have a problem with Van Gaal. I mean, we're paying for the Van der Beek thing. Van der Beek was a Dutch first-team player, and now he can't get in the squad because he moved to Manchester United. It's a test case that Van Gaal, it's our fault, basically. It's Manchester United's fault. It's not the fans' fault, it's not Ten Hag's fault, but this is what you're inheriting, Eric. You're inheriting bad mistakes that many fans have spoken about quite recently, that this will start to hurt us. And the reality is, the Van der Beek experiment is what is costing us Timber, because he can look at that and go, there's an Ajax player who was a first-team Dutch player who is now not going to the World Cup because he moved to Manchester United. And that's a strong thing for Van Gaal to say. And it's obviously an issue. But I'm disappointed by it, and I think Erik Ten Hag will be very, very disappointed with it because it was a player he really wanted and we thought we were going to get. NYYK says, if we sign Anthony, we can call out front three Tony, says NYYK. If De Jong joins United, though, being persuaded, do you not think it will affect his attitude on and off the pitch, as it is not what he 100% wants, says Joe Langton. Erik Ten Hag knows Frankie De Jong better than anybody. I do agree with you. I mean, look, sometimes you've got to look at cold, harsh facts. We are spending over £300,000 a week again on a player that is coming here unwillingly. And we've not got a great experience with that. These players that are unwilling to come here don't necessarily give a shit when they are here, and that can lead to problems in the dressing room. So Ten Hag's staking his reputation on Frankie De Jong. He really is, but he's openly doing that. He's desperate for this player. He says it's worth it, and you know, that's where we are. In fact, let's just move on from Timber for a moment then. So this is coming out from Rob Draper. Erik Ten Hag doesn't want to sign 2 or 3 players before De Jong, only to find out that they don't have enough money to meet Barcelona's valuation. This is why he sees Frankie De Jong as urgent. And this actually makes a lot of sense. Now, remember, we've all been talking about the budget. Now, we're going to do a show tonight. I think you're going to quite enjoy it. As long as nothing major breaks, we're going to do it on the 8 o'clock show tonight. I know Adam did it a couple of weeks ago and a lot of you enjoyed it, so I'm doing it tonight. I'm going to have a budget, and I'm going to do 120, 150 and 200. And with each budget, I'm going to buy players and you're going to work with me, and we're going to see how difficult it is to solve problems with different budgets. So 8 o'clock tonight, interactive, make sure you tune in. But this makes a lot of sense. If you are spending £70 million on Frankie de Jong, this makes a lot of sense, and I think this is true. The reason we've not bought anybody else is because if we went and bought Anthony for 50 and Malacia for 20, that's £70 million spent. That means you've probably, with a budget of 120, only got 50 left. And if Barcelona says we'll do a deal, but we'll do it for 70, you've got to find another 20 from somewhere. And I think whether people like it or not, and I hopefully get proved wrong on this, the reason we're so locked in on de Jong, the reason we're not doing any other deals, and remember, Liverpool are buying someone else this morning. They're getting this Ramsey guy from Aberdeen. The reason we're not doing any other deals is because our budget's not that big. And the reason we're so locked in on de Jong and not doing another deal is because we need to buy de Jong first to figure out how much we've got left. And the fact that Erik ten Hag doesn't want to sign one or two other players before getting in Frankie de Jong shows you how limited this budget is. I know there was a lot of talk yesterday about the money's there available. And I thought what Richard Arnold said yesterday was very interesting and commendable in parts. But is the CEO going to sit there surrounded by 4 or 5 United fans having a pint saying the budget's only 120 million? You know, he's going to be wearing his pints, isn't he? Because this football club is loaded, and a budget of 120 million, which is worse than Arsenal's, worse than Spurs, worse than Chelsea's, you're going to get a load of shit for that. So he's never going to tell the truth about the budget. That's the one thing from that comments that have come out that I just don't believe. I don't believe our budget's very big, and I think things like this and what I said yesterday morning will come true. The reason we're not buying any other players is because Ten Hag's obsessed with de Jong, and he doesn't want to buy anybody else in case they spend too much on somebody else and then there's not enough left for de Jong. I think de Jong is the focal point, and I think we'll spend about 70 million on de Jong, which will leave us about 50 million to spend on somebody else. And that'll be it. I think that's it. Until proved otherwise, I think that's it. So, you know, it's not rocket science. It's not breaking news. The reason we're obsessed with de Jong is because we know that that's where most of the money's going. And therefore, you've got to get that deal done before and see what you've got left. Is there any news on a CDM, says Adam? Absolutely nothing, Adam. It's something that really bothers me. The fact that for the third summer transfer window in a row, we're neglecting a defensive-minded midfielder is ridiculous. I mean, you know, Declan Rice at one point was the number one priority, and he's a defensive-minded midfielder. We're not looking at anybody else. We don't actually have one. De Jong's not defensive-minded. Fred's not defensive-minded. McTominay's not defensive-minded. Donny's not defensive-minded. We haven't got anybody, and yet we're not looking for anybody. I mean, and actually this morning, Fabrizio Romano is talking about Lema, who I wouldn't say Lema's defensive-minded, by the way. I think you could play Lema and de Jong in a midfield too, and they could supplement each other quite well. But Lema's available for 20 million quid, and Bayern Munich have got another free run at him. And I just think Leipzig want to sell Lema abroad. They don't want to sell him to Bayern. Bayern want him. There's a bit of a hint there that if Bayern Munich wants a midfielder, they're probably quite good. Like, Bayern Munich don't just... You can't look at Bayern and go, well, it's the Bundesliga, they won't be good enough in the Premier League. Like, I don't know why we're not looking at that deal. I really don't. Would you sign a pre-contract with Timber for January? I'd rather we wait for our number one option, says Nick. I think that is an option, Nick, and I think United would probably be wise to do that because we've got to get that number one target. We are in the Europa League next year. We're not going to win the league. And let's be honest, we probably can get by with Maguire, Varane and Lindelof for 6 months. If we sign Anthony, I've done that one. And can't we pay the same for Sangari and Renato Sanchez instead of de Jong? Price will be the same, says Emperor. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't agree. I don't disagree with you on that one. But the logical thing to come back is that Erik ten Hag wants Frankie de Jong. Erik ten Hag wants Frankie de Jong. Erik ten Hag wants Frankie de Jong. Get that in your head. Whether you agree with it or not, he is the manager. This is the signing that he wants. Do I think it's the right decision? I think it's a risk, but he's got to be allowed to take that risk. We can't, with one hand, say you've got to back the manager and let them do what they want, and on the other hand, go, oh, I wouldn't get him de Jong. You know, I know it's a bit of a head mess sometimes, but we have to do that. We do. Also from Rob Draper, Manchester United, once they've got the de Jong deal over the line, Erik ten Hag will decide who he needs with the remainder of the budget. It points to a new bid this week with Barcelona wanting 69 million and United offering 56 million. I mean, look, fees are fees, but that's very interesting as well because, again, this is what I just said. When de Jong is bought, who we buy after that will depend very much on how much money we've got left. I don't think we'll have another 70 million left after De Jong's gone. I think we'll have less than that. Erik ten Hag sees Manchester United sorting out the Frenkie de Jong deal as an urgent matter. He regards the Barcelona star as the key player in the United revolution. And also, Manchester United are expected to move for Feyenoord left-back Tyrell Malacia once they are sure that Frenkie de Jong will join. Well, again, look, I said this a couple of weeks ago. Somebody said, who do you predict we will sign? And I've quite consistently put Malacia in there quite a lot. I know, again, from the Dutch side, that Manchester United really do like Malacia at Feyenoord, but we can't move for him until we've got de Jong because we don't know what money we've got left. So Lyon are pushing really hard for Malacia, but I think Malacia knows we're interested and he's sort of holding back a little bit. But I mean, how long he'll hold back, I don't know. So I would very much keep an eye on that one. Tim says, surely Sangare is a great option, complements de Jong, breaks up the play and progresses the ball very well. I don't know why we're not in for Sangare, Tim. And if we're not in for Sangare, at least you could reassure yourself that we're not in for him because Ten Hag doesn't think he's good enough. I mean, PSV just beat Ajax in the Dutch Cup. They were second in the league to the Ajax. He will know Sangare's game like the back of his hand, Erik ten Hag, as the Ajax coach. And if he doesn't think he's good enough, then as much as I would like us to buy him, and I'm sure many of you were, I don't think we can moan and say we missed out there, because Erik ten Hag's literally been watching this lad play all of last season as his biggest rival. He will know whether he's good enough or not. So, look, I think Sangare, there's a lot of noise around him, and I think it'd be a very exciting signing. But I think on that one, logically, we've got to say, if Ten Hag don't fancy him, he probably knows better than anybody else. Fans moaning we're wasting time on de Jong, but we'll moan again when the season starts that we've not tried to get number one target. This is a big deal, says Dan Watson. And morning, Mark, 120 million spent in this window, another 100 million in January, says Mikael Roach. If we get de Jong, will protests continue, says Romeo. I think the protests are very much about the Glazers, mate. So I would suggest that they will continue, yes. I think that the only way that Manchester United Football Club can, I wouldn't say stop protests, but calm protests, is by being successful on the pitch. And the only way they're going to be successful on the pitch is by investing in the ground and in the playing squad and removing the shit from last year. So, it's not rocket science for the Glazers. It's whether they want to do it. People want you out of the club, myself included, most of you included. I want the Glazers out of this football club. I think it's not an aggression. It's just we don't want you to be in charge of our football club anymore. That's the position today, and probably going to be like that tomorrow, and has been for many previous days and weeks and years. Their only chance of turning this round is by doing something that they've not done for the last 16, which is starting to clear the debt, stop taking dividends, buy effectively, get United into title races. I mean, success silences critics, and we are critics. We don't want them in charge anymore. So, do I see that success coming? No, and therefore I think that people will continue to have their voice. Did you see Garnacho's story? Not important, but he's exciting. Apparently he will be more involved this year, and Messi is impressed, says Daniel Kirk. I did, Daniel, and as if by magic, Daniel, I can actually whack it up on the screen for you as well. So there you go. That's what it says. Argentinian national team manager, as well as Lionel Messi, excited by the potential shown by Garnacho. And there's also a story that Erik ten Hag is going to fast track him into the United side as well. So look, that's good news. Which leads me quite nicely onto what I was going to talk about Eriksen. If we're looking at a left back, then we must be looking at selling Telles and Williams, get 15 million each, as Dazzo. Mate, I respect the hustle, Dazzo, but let's not ever talk about getting money for players. You're too logical. I mean, Dean Henderson was the easiest 25 million this summer. We've bloody loaned him for free and we're paying his wages. I don't disagree with you that we could get 10 million for Telles, but we'll probably end up loaning him and paying all his wages to somebody else. We're absolutely terrible at selling. I've got no faith that we're going to raise any money from sales, to be honest. Calvin Ramsey is done for Liverpool. What are we waiting for? Says whoops. And Ten Hag has killed himself waiting so long for de Jong. The market isn't hard. We could have got Vitina, Basuma, Eriksen, Anthony and Malacia for 20 million. That's 129 million. I mean, look, Sean, we'll be doing this tonight on the 8 o'clock show. We'll have the values, we'll have the budgets, we'll work through it together. It's going to be some fun. But you're right. There are constructions that you can do. Vitina and Basuma would, that's 60 million. Eriksen's free. Anthony's 110 million. 50 plus 60 is 110 million. And then Malacia for about 15-20 million as well. 130 million. You've got 2 midfielders, an attacking midfielder, a winger, and a left back. You haven't got a centre back, but I think we do need one of those. I would add in that in, Sean. Starting to think Ten Hag got the job because he agreed to work with the current squad plus a couple of signings, says John. Mate, I completely agree. I think the evidence at the moment suggests that we're going to buy 2, maybe 3 players, and he's going to try and get the best out of what he's got. And look, it's not lost on me, and I'm sure it's not lost on you. Why do you think we're seeing daily videos of Rashford and Bailly and Sancho and other United players training? Why do you think they're putting pictures of them training out? Because it's this. It's reverse psychology. They want to change your opinion on these players from last year who basically came on in the Manchester derby and walked around. Like, they want you to forget the unforgivable things they did last year in relation to effort and performance because they're running up and down a hill. And that has to feed into the fact that they know that the budget's not that big, and we're not going to provide the summer that Rangnick wanted, where we're buying 6-7 players and selling 10. We're going to buy 2 or 3 and keep most of them, aren't we? And look, I'm a fan of Rashford. I think Rashford could get back to where he was 2 years ago. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that, but I'm not singling out Rashford there. Bruno's got to be in that conversation. Luke Shaw, these are players that I like as well. Harry Maguire's got to be in the conversation. They're all got to be in the conversation. And I think gradually the club are going to be doing that over the next 6 weeks. When we're on tour, it'll be the same. It'll be winning team pictures, and most of those pictures will be players that were shit last year because they've got to reverse your psychology. They've got to make you want to give them another chance. Personally, I'm not giving them another chance unless they go and perform week in, week out for 10 games in a row. I don't want to see United play one game at the start of the season well, and then Harry Maguire's posting up his stats like he's proved us all wrong just off one game. Like, this is Manchester United. I was brought up on Roy Keane, Steve Bruce, Paul Ince, Eric Cantona, Scholes, Keane, Beckham. I've said Keane twice because he, sort of the GOAT when it comes to this sort of thing. A bad performance was a rarity. At United, a good performance is a rarity now, and they celebrate it like they've won the cup when they put a good performance in. Like, I don't even want to see United players celebrating a good performance. I actually want them to be celebrating winning a trophy, because that's what a good performance is. Or at Man United, a good performance is not to be celebrated. A win in the cup or 3 points in the league is part of a journey to the goal, which is what Man United should always be going for, which is winning a title. Or that's what we're there for. These players will only, in my mind, be forgiven for what they've done over the last couple of years if they start playing consistently week in, week out. And I don't think most of them are capable of doing that. Will we actually sell it? Will we sell players as Tommy? I don't think so. I don't think so. Mark, the player we're buying from Porto is a third of the price of De Jong and better at his age than De Jong was at his age. Zayn Miassi. Okay, I didn't even know who that player was. This Vieira lad, to be honest with you. So I'll take your word on that. I don't think most Arsenal fans knew who he was last week either. I remember Donny's first game with Everton. He played defensive and looked quite good. Do you think Donny could play in a 2 with De Jong, says Carl? Well, there's a story coming out today which leads me to believe that we probably will get the Eriksen deal over the line. Apparently there's a bit of an update on Timber, which I'm just about to bring you. But there's also an update on Eriksen, which leads me to believe that we probably will get the deal over the line. Erik Ten Hag wants to bring in wants to bring Eriksen and De Jong in because they're massively important to the way he wants to play football. So I think that's quite interesting, really, because that means that Eriksen would start a lot of games, and obviously De Jong would start a lot of games. So instantly, I'm not against Eriksen coming into the team, and I suppose my issue with Eriksen is what I've said before. We need a centre-back, 2 midfielders, a left-footed right winger, a centre-forward, and arguably a full-back before we bring in another attacking midfielder like Eriksen. But if Eriksen's going to start games and Bruno's going to start games, he's obviously got a plan to play Eriksen in the team, in which case he sort of does become more important than what I think. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Ten Hag, if rumours are to be believed, really sees Eriksen as massively important in the team that he wants to put together. Where he fits him in, I mean, what's he going to do? Is he going to play him off the right-hand side? I don't know. Marcus Rashford has spoken to Donny van der Beek and Daley Blind about Ten Hag's methods, and hopefully he'll finally get the coaching his game has lacked since bursting into the professional scene. I mean, I think that's a bit of a crap excuse from Rashford. I mean, that's just PR again, isn't it? You know, I think anybody who's and I'm a massive fan of Rashford. You cannot just sit there and go, I've been crap for 2 years because of coaching. Like, Rangnick's a completely different coach to Ollie. So you've had two very different coaches and you've not been able to perform. Marcus Rashford's problem is, and he probably wouldn't want to listen to me or many other people, but Marcus Rashford's problem is he needs to buy a big mirror and look at it. Because you put your head down, you close your eyes, you run down blind alleys, you don't pass. It's almost like every time you get the ball, you're trying to go past 4 or 5 players or get a shot off. Like, you need to simplify your game. That's what you need to do. And yeah, coaching's part of that, but you've got to listen to that. And you've also you're not a robot. You're not being programmed. A massive part of football is your own intelligence, and he knows this. I mean, bloody hell, to get where he's got in his career, he hasn't just wandered into Carrington and they've said play up front. From whatever year of age as a kid all the way to there, he knows how to be a professional footballer. And he's got to take on responsibility himself. And all these running pictures and that, they're great. That's fitness. But actually, I think your speed, there's nothing wrong with your speed and your fitness. It's your football brain that you need to work on. You know, you need to look at give and goes. You need to look at angles. You need to look at runs. You need to look at when to release the ball and when not to release the ball. And I think those are the things that Rashford needs to work on. And it's not guaranteed that he will, because if every footballer could do that, then every footballer would be the same ability. You've either got it or you haven't. And Rashford's got to take a long, hard look in the mirror and stop looking for excuses. And I think that goes through the whole team. I didn't hear enough accountability from that squad at the end of last season where people should have been coming out and saying, I'm a disgrace. I've been absolute shit. But you don't get that because they've got people around them telling them that's not the case. And the reality is most of them last season were an absolute embarrassment to that shirt. And they need to look at themselves, not be, oh, I need a new manager because that's the reason. Like, you know, a new manager's not the person who's on the pitch walking around in a Manchester derby, is he? You know. Hi, Mark. Donny and Frankie de Jong as a 2. Bruno in front of them. Reinforcements in January. Got to keep Ronnie until next summer, says Baggy. I'm just trying to find somebody said there's been an update in relation to Timber on Twitter. Sources close to Dean Henderson say Man United are preparing the paperwork for his loan move. Boring. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. Yeah, we're paying most of his bloody wages anyway. I can't see anything about Timber other than what we've already discussed here. So unless anyone wants to tell me on the chat, I can't see anything about Timber. Let's have a look. Garnacho will be part of the first team. Manchester United still want to add a forward this summer, but Ten Hag will be heavily reliant on Cristiano Ronaldo, Rashford, Sancho, and possibly Martial. I think Martial will be interesting to see what happens. Anthony's obviously a deal we could do. I just don't know whether I'll be honest here. Like, the interest in Anthony from Manchester United is there. It's definitely there. But yeah, I was reading some stuff about Rashford there, which I think is completely irrelevant. Apparently, he's had a face-to-face meeting with Southgate. I mean, why? Just sort your form out, and you'll get picked for England. Liverpool won the League Cup and FA Cup, and that's considered a bad season. They have raised their standards and already have bought Nunez and Ramsey, all while players don't even want to come here, says Malleable. And hi, Mark. I don't see many players being sold. All I see is players running down contracts. Other teams can't afford the wages that they are on, says Rick. I think with Anthony, the interest in Anthony is really there. I mean, remember we spoke about this 2 weeks ago when it was being spoken about in Brazil, and I said this is going to hit the UK press, and it did a couple of days later. Anthony would love to come to Manchester United. Ten Hag really likes Antony, but the truth of the matter with Antony is, and the truth of the matter with any other player at the moment is, De Jong is the number one priority. Now, a club could go to Ajax, and it could be Spurs, it could be Chelsea. They could go and say, look, you're our priority. United are making you wait on a maybe. We want you. Come to us. That could happen. That could happen at any time. But the reason United can't get Antony done and can't get any other deal done at the moment is because there is a restricted budget. I'm absolutely convinced on it. And I know I'll sound like a broken record, but if you've only got £130 million to spend, and 125 or whatever, and you spend 70 million quid on De Jong plus 300 grand a week wages, which is what 300 grand a week is, it's over 12 million pounds a year, which is probably going to come out of the budget as well, knowing United, you leave yourself with about 50 million quid. Well, that's probably not enough to buy Antony. So, I mean, Antony will only come to United if our budget is bigger than rumoured. If our budget is around 120 million, it's simple maths. You can't buy De Jong and Antony. I look, I'll stand corrected on this, but I really do think the way things are going, we're going to buy 2, maybe 3 players. One of those could be Eriksen, who's a freebie. We're going to do this on the cheap again, even though we'll spend a massive amount on De Jong. It's still not a massive budget, is it? 120 million quid. And therefore, what's clearly happened is Erik ten Hag has taken this job on the cheap. He's actually willingly signed the job saying, I only need a couple of players and I'll work with what you've got. And this whole, we finished second a year ago, we've got loads of potential thing, will continue to be the theme. The problem for Manchester United fans to swallow with that is, you weren't here last year, Eric. The people who were here on the board, no one really trusts. The fans know the truth. If you think you're polishing this team and turning it into a cup-winning team of any description, you're going to be very sadly mistaken. That team ain't good enough, and also, they don't like each other. You can take them camping in early July and you can sing songs around the campfire, but they don't like each other as well. That team needed breaking up. And with all due respect, Lingard, Cavani, Mata, Matic and Pogba were not the major problems in that team. I know the rumour is that the 2 leaks have gone. I know for a fact, and I think most of you know for a fact, there was a lot more than 2 people causing problems in that dressing room, and a lot of them are still here. As Samuel Lucker said a few weeks ago, you can remove some of the snakes, but there'll still be vipers in that dressing room next season. So I don't think, I might be completely wrong on this, but I don't think 2 or 3 signings is going to make a massive amount of difference to Manchester United over the next couple of years, because I still think we're riddled with snakes, and I still think they're not good enough, a lot of them either. But I hope I'm going to be wrong on that, but it does feel like it's De Jong and maybe what else we can afford. Hi Mark, been thinking for a while, if Ten Hag prefers a player like Donny or Eriksen in the 10, could we see Bruno similar to Tadic? Well, I said that last season, Cam. You could put Bruno to the right. You could put Eriksen to the right. If we sign Antony, we can call out, we've done that one. It keeps coming up. Make sure you smash a like on the video, by the way. We've got quite a lot of people watching. And please do subscribe. We're getting very close to 360,000. 2 or 3 signings is a rubbish window. 4 is a must, says Ryan. I agree. And not because I'm greedy. I think you can always... I think every transfer window you want more than you get. But, as I said, we need a centre-back. All right, De Jong, we're going to get him. We need a defensive-minded midfielder. That's absolutely essential. I'm up to 3 already. We need a left-footed winger. And we probably do need another forward. So even if we don't get the other forward because we keep Martial, we still need 4 and probably need a full-back. That's 5. Yeah. And then Eriksen just still doesn't fit into me, but he does obviously fit into De Jong. Anthony or Rafinha, says Diamani. I really do like Antony. I mean, look, they're very similar. They both play off the right-hand side. They've both got a good left foot. But I do like the idea of Antony. And Rafinha's obviously going to go to Barcelona. Quote from Marcel van der Kraan. Timber said, "Boss, I can't come with you to United. My Holland place is more important. And now Ajax have jumped and offered a new deal." That's from Sky Sports News. Well, he's changed his mind. It can happen. I'm very surprised, but he's changed his mind. What do you think about Ahmad? He's a left-footed winger, says Kim. Yeah, We have got players that I think it's worth having a look at. Garner, Ahmad, Palestri. These are players, Garnacho, Mabry. These are players that I want United to take a look at. There's also players I really don't want us to take a look at that I think should be booted out. But we're still going to have a very big squad. And unfortunately, I don't think it gets mentioned enough, but one of the reasons that we probably won't buy many players is because we've still got a massive squad. I mean, look, let's do it. You've got De Gea. I mean, keepers don't really matter, but De Gea and Heaton, we'll probably bring another one in. You've got Dalot, Wan-Bissaka, Williams, Shaw, Telles, Maguire, Varane, Lindelof, Bailly, Jones, and I might miss people as I go through. McTominay, Fred, Garner, Van der Beek, Bruno, Rashford, Ronaldo, Sancho, Alanga, Martial. So that's 22 players. And there are others. I mean, there are others. There's definitely people I've missed out. So I got to 22 players quite quickly. Obviously, I didn't put in any Matters or Matiches or Cavani. So there's still 22 there. And I've probably missed 2 or 3 out. So let's say we've got a 25-man squad after people have left. And I've not included Dean Henderson either. So we've got a 25-man squad, roughly. And, you know, people think we're going to buy 5. I think sometimes you can logically figure out why we're not going to do anything massive, because we still have got 25 senior first-team players, even though 5 have walked out the door for free. They ain't going to go and buy 5 or 6 players, are they? And they can't sell players. So you can see the problem. You can almost be the fly on the wall. We'd love to buy 5 or 6 players, Eric, but in the first year, it's about trimming that squad. But there's 5 people walking out the door for free. I know. There's still 25 left. I tell you what, we'll get you one really good signing. Take your pick, whatever you want. Frenkie de Jong. We'll get you Frenkie de Jong, but you've got to work with the 25 that you've got already. Okay, I'll do it. And, you know, if you can move them on in the first year, then maybe next summer we'll bring some players in. I think the writing's on the wall with this. And look, I might be completely wrong. But the evidence is that probably is not going to be the case. Bruno on the wing, Donny, De Jong pivot, and Eriksen 10, says Maj. I mean, look, Maj, I don't mind what you're saying, but if I can be completely honest with you on a Sunday morning, all you're doing is telling me about new ways we can use players that we've already got. And that I just don't find that very exciting. I really do not believe, no matter what players you throw at me, that the way forward for Manchester United is to get a tune out of what we've got. I just don't trust that idea at all. I think the Rangnick way was the way that the fans really engaged with, and that was sell as many players as you can and build a new team. And I think that's what we needed to do. That's what we've seen Chelsea do. We've seen Man City do it. We've seen Klopp do it at Liverpool. I don't know many managers in history that come into massive jobs and have to get the best out of what they've got. That tends to be the attitude when you're taking over a Brighton or a Southampton. It's not what happens when you take over a big club. You know, Arteta didn't go into Arsenal and be told over 3 years you've got to get the best out of what you've got. They've actually changed that team massively. Chelsea do it all the time. Every manager gets backed massively. Pep changes his right backs like he changes his pants. Like Klopp completely revitalised that Liverpool team. If our plan is, yeah, you've got a massive squad, mate, and we can't sell it, and they're all on massive wages, you've got to get by with what you've got with 1 or 2 signings, then I think it's destined to fail. The rebuild looks like the race set at United and maybe De Jong, says Melps. And if only we kept Dan James and Mata, we could be such a better team, says Dylan Roberts. Okay, well, you know, we've all got different ideas, haven't we? Of course we have. Anyway, look, I could talk and talk and talk. I think that's quite an interesting thing that we've discovered there, that even with the 5 players walking out the door, we've still got a squad of about 22 to 25 players. That's massive. That's a massive amount of players we've still got. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Do not miss the show at 8 o'clock. It's going to be very interactive. We're going to work on what you can get with 120 million, 150 million, 200 million. We'll have little values and everything, and we'll be moving them around. Of course, unless anything breaks, we'll go live about something else. But thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe.